by the time we got to Let It Be, we couldn't play the game anymore. We couldn't do it anymore. It's come to a point where it was no longer creating magic. And the camera sort of being in the room with us made us aware of that it was a phony situation.
In fact, what happened was when we got in there, we showed how the breakup of a group works. We didn't realise that we were actually sort of breaking up, as it was happening.
Well, I think it shows as an absolute fact that we were going different places, I've mentioned it before, the energy for the Beatles was waning.
Just the same as it was before, the year before, when we were last in the studio. There's a lot of kind of trivia and games that were being played. It was quite obvious that the Beatles became, the thing that it started out being, it gave us a vehicle to be able to do so much when we were younger, and we grew right through that. But it got to a point where it was stifling us. There was too much restriction. It had to self-destruct.
And a lot of days, even with all the craziness, it really works still. Instead of working every day, it worked like 2 days a month, And there were still good days. There was always a possibility that, we could have carried on. We weren't sitting in the studio saying, okay, this is it. Last record, last track, last take.
But I think at the point we'd finished Abbey Road, it was really, the game was up, and I think we all accepted that.
I think the Beatles have gone through so much, and it was a long time. They've been incarcerated with each other for nearly a decade. And it was a very, very happy album. Everybody worked frightfully well, and that's why I'm very fond of it. Let It Be was such an unhappy record, really, even though there's some great songs on it. I really thought that was the end of the Beatles, and I thought I would never work with them again. And I thought, what a shame to go out there like this. So I was quite surprised when Paul rang me up and said, we're going to make another record, would you like to produce it? And my immediate answer was, only if you let me produce it the way we used to. And he said, we do want to do that. I said, John included? He said, yes, honestly. So I said, well, if you really want to do that, let's do it, and let's get together again. And it was a very happy record. I guess it was happy because everybody knew it was going to be the last.
Well, I think the deal was that, through Let It Be, it was like I left, and we got back on the basis that we've got to just finish it up, make it tidy. So I got back on that basis. Then everybody decided, well, we ought to do one better album.
I think it shows on the record that when we were excited, the track's exciting, That it's really all comes together. It doesn't matter what we're going through as individuals, on the bullshit level. When it gets to the music, when you can see that it's really cool, we all put in 1,000%.
I think it's pretty funky, I'm biased because it's my song, I dig it, And it just happened well, it's a nice funky sound on it.
Well, I like Come Together. That's a great one, which is John's one.
Yeah, Come Together was one of the ones, one of the last ones to be recorded, one of John's songs. John was in an accident, so he was off for a period of time, and then when he got back, which was only a week or so before we finished the album, we did this one. So I think he wrote it only a month or so ago, so it's very new. And it's sort of 12-bar type of tune, and it's one of the nicest sounds we've got, actually. Nice drumming from Ringo, and it's sort of up-tempo, I suppose you call it, a rocker beat, a boogie. Yeah,
How about
with very Lennon lyrics. The Something is a song of mine I wrote towards the end of the Beatles album, the White Album. I wrote it as we were still recording that album, but I never finished it off. I could never think of words for it. And also because there was a James Taylor song called Something in the Way She Moves, which is the first line of that. And so then I thought of trying to change the words, but they were the words that came when I first wrote it. So in the end, I just left it as that and just called it Something. And actually, I think Joe Cocker's recorded this song.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I wrote it, I imagined somebody like Ray Charles doing it. It's, you know, that's how the feel I imagined, but because I'm not Ray Charles, then, you know, I'm sort of much more limited in what I can do. Then it came out like this. It's nice. It's probably the nicest melody tune that I've written.
I think we probably put Something out as a single out there. I think that's about the best track on the album, actually, George's track. And they had it, you know how they always get our records before they're out over there somehow. We've got a spy in England who sends them the tapes.
Right.
And they were playing something so much they had an advance thing of it. They're red hot for it over there, so we'll probably release it over there as a single. I don't know what'll happen here.
I like Something, George writes. I think it's, for me, I think it's the best he's written.
It's a typical McCartney sing-along, or whatever you call them. He did quite a lot of work on it. I was ill after the accident when they did most of that track, and I believe they really ground George and Ringo into the ground, recorded it, you know.
Maxwell's Silver Hammer is just something of Paul's, which we've been trying to record it. We spend a hell of a lot of time on it, and it's one of those that instant sort of whistle along tunes, which I don't know, some people will hate and some people will really love it. You know, it's more like sort of honey pie, you know, fun sort of song. But it's pretty sick as well, though, because the guy keeps killing everybody. But that was good because, you know, I had that synthesizer, and it's that's one of the tunes we use synthesizer on, which is pretty effective on this.
Oh, darling.
Oh, Darling, to me, is another of Paul's songs, which is typical sort of 1950 to 60 period type of song. The chord structure and everything, it's really nice. You know those groups, can't think of the names, but it's typical sort of 1955 type song. But this is more really just Paul singing. We do a few oohs in the background, which you can't, just very quietly, but it's mainly Paul shouting.
I'd like to be in an octopus's garden in the shade.
But it'll be a few years before his production is going as fast as ours. It took George a few years. Yeah, I think he does a bit of harmony here and there, because at the time I was away they laid a few harmony tracks on some of the medley bit.
Oh, yes.
You know, so I think Ringo's doing a bit of harmony here and there too. It's a Ringo sing-along, yeah.
Octopus's Garden is Ringo's song, is the second song Ringo wrote, and it's lovely, you know. It's again like Ringo, he gets bored, you know, playing the drums, and at home he plays a bit of piano, but he only knows about 3 chords, and he knows that's the same on guitar. And so the main music he likes is country and western, so it's really got a country and western feel from, you know. I think it's a really great song, because on the surface it's like a Daft Kid song, but the lyrics are great, really. For me, you know, I find very deep meaning in the lyrics, which Ringo probably doesn't see, but all the thing like resting our head on the seabed and something we'll be warm beneath the storm, which is really great, you know, because it's like this level is a storm, and it's always, you know, if you get sort of deep in your consciousness, it's very peaceful. So Ringo's writing his cosmic songs without noticing.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
It's pretty heavy, the ending, you know. Could we use the Moog synthesizer on it? the range of the sound is from, you know, minus whatever to way over where you can't hear it. You know, that machine, the Moog synthesizer can do all sound, you know, all ranges of sound. So we did that on the end. So if you're a dog, you could hear a lot more.
I want you, the last one on this side is, I want you bracket, she's so heavy. It gets sort of, it is very heavy. And it's John plays lead guitar and sings the same as he plays. And this is good because it has, it's really basically a bit like a blues. The riff that he sings and plays is really a very basic blues type thing, but again it's very original sort of John type song. And the middle bit's great. John has an amazing thing with his timing. He always comes across with sort of different timing things, like example, all you need is sort of nothing you can do that can't be done, down, the song, which just sort of skips beats out and changes from 3, 4, 4, you know, all in and out of each other. But when you question him as to what it is, he doesn't know, he just does it naturally, and once you try and pin it down, he, you know, and this has got, the bridge section of this is a bit like that. It's got a really very good chord sequence that he uses. Side 2, Here Comes the Sun, is the other song that I wrote on the album. And it was written on a nice sunny day this early summer in Eric Clapton's garden, because we'd been through really hell with business, and you know, it's very heavy, and on that day I just felt as though I was sagging off like from school. It was like that, I just didn't come in one day, and just the release of being in the sun, and it was just really nice day. And that song just came. It's a bit like If I Needed Someone, and you know, like that basic sort of, the riff going through it is the same as you know, all those Bells of Rimney sort of bird type thing. Well, that's how I see it anyway. But quite simple tune.
It reminds me of sort of Buddy Holly in a way. I don't know, you know, I mean, it's just the way he's progressing. He's writing all kinds of songs, you know. I mean, once the door opens, it's the floodgates open, you know. You can't sort of, it's an effort to concentrate on writing certain kinds of songs, you know. Like, I prefer writing just non-melodic, straight rock, but I can't help writing other things, you know, and I think that applies to all of us. Just the songs just come out, you know. Yoko plays classical piano, and she was playing one day, and I don't know whether it was Beethoven or something. I said, give me them chords backwards. And I wrote because on it, on top of it. I wouldn't know, you know. I mean, I just asked George Martin or whoever's around, said, what's the alternative to thirds and fifths? They're the only ones I know. And he plays them on the piano. He said, oh, we'll have that one, you know. So I couldn't tell you what they are. I just know it's harmony.
And I like Because on the second side. Well, they were John's lyrics, but I think, you know, if they'd have been straight, yeah, so I'm not taking any blame, but no. If they'd have been used just straight, if it had been you turn me on, you blow my mind, okay, that would have been passe. But to say that because the world is round, it turns me on, it's great.
Yes,
it's like, well, it's not fantastic, but it's as good as, good enough for me, you know.
Yeah.
And because the wind is high, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
You know, it's much better than You Blow My Mind, Baby, Honey Bunch.
Because is one of the most beautiful tunes, and I think it's 3-part harmony. John, Paul and George all sing it together. John wrote this tune. It's a bit like, the backing's a bit like Beethoven, and 3-part harmony right throughout.
It sounds very much like a Paul McCartney song rather than John.
Yeah, well, yeah, because of the sweetness of it. Paul usually writes the sweeter tunes, and John writes the sort of more the rave-up things or the freakier things. But this is the thing, you know, John gets into where he doesn't want to, you know, he just wants to write 12 bars. But you can't deny, I think this is possibly my favourite one on the album, because it's It's just so simple. The lyrics are so simple. The harmony was pretty difficult to sing it. We, had to really learn it. But I think that's one of the tunes that will impress most people. Like hip people will dig it too, but straight through all the straight people will dig it, and the music people will dig it. It's really good.
Side 2 of Abbey Road was very much my favourite because it was Paul and I doing what I wanted to do after Pepper. Pepper, I thought we were establishing a new art form, and I tried to get the boys to think in symphonic terms. I would say to them, if you're going to write a song, work it so that you can write another song and then bring the two together. Have counterpoint. Bring a little melody here and there that's a fragment of the other one, and develop a whole sequence like a symphonic work. And Paul thought this was a great idea. John didn't. John's a rocker. He wanted a series of rock tracks. So we compromised with Abbey Road, and one side of them is just tracks, but with notably a song like Because, which is really quite a classic song, and John as one of those tracks. But then a song like Come Together, which was a fantastic rock track. But the long one was Paul de-evolving the symphonic idea. And John contributed to that a lot too.
I liked the A side. I never liked that sort of whatever pop opera on the other side. Yeah, I think it's junk.
And then it got to side 2, and John had a few short bits, Polythene Pam, and Paul had a few short, no one had finished the songs. And we put them all together, and it worked so great. I love side 2.
Then begins the sort of big medley of Paul and John's songs all shoved together. You Never Give Me Your Money. It's really hard. You have to hear this because it does like 2 verses of one tune, and then it goes, the sort of bridge of it is like a different song altogether.
My contribution to it is Polythene Pam and Sun King and me and Mr. Mustard, so we just juggled them about till it made vague sense. And in Polythene Pam, like me and Mr. Mustard, I said his sister Pam, and originally it said his sister Shirley in the lyrics, so I changed it to Pam and make it sound like it had something to do with it. That's where we pretend to be Fleetwood Mac for a few minutes. See, we did the introductions, we call it the sun riff, the little instrumental bit that's like Fleetwood Mac, but before we start singing, and we did it again on the end. So when we came to sing it, to make them different, so it wasn't just the same riff, we just started joking, sing Cuando para mucho. So we just made up, Paul knew a few Spanish words through school, so we just strung any Spanish words that sounded vaguely like something. And of course we got Chica 30, and that's a Liverpool expression, just like sort of, it doesn't mean anything, but the one we missed, we should have had Paranoia, we forgot all about it. We used to call ourselves Los Paranoias. I wrote it in India, so that was pre the Beatles double album, so it's that old. And it was from some newspaper clipping that the title was Me and Mr. Mustard, about some guy done something or other. But of course the story's nothing like him, it was like the newspaper title heading. Well, that's another half a song which I never finished, so I put it in there.
Just that idea that we still worked, and it turned out great.
Yeah, it's a bit like everything in a way, sort of not fade away, and some, summertime blues and everything. That's another half a song I wrote in India, about kinky girl in a polythene bag, It was when Paul and I went to America to publicise Apple about 2 years ago to announce the opening, and we were just in the flat we were staying in, and he just came out with that line, she came into the bathroom window, so he'd had it for years, so he eventually finished it.
Came in through the bathroom window is a very good song of Paul's, with good lyrics. It's really hard to explain what they're about.
Golden slumbers. I know it was an old song, isn't it? It's an old...
Well, when did you write it?
Well, I mean, it's not my lyrics.
I was just playing the piano in Liverpool, my dad's house, and my sister Ruth's piano book, she was learning piano, and you know those sort of with Do You Ken John Peel and Golden Slumbers and your old favourites, was up on the thing, you know, it was this stand, you know, there's a little book with all those words in it and stuff. So I was just flicking through it and I came to Golden Slumbers, you know. So I just started, because I can't read music, so I didn't know the tune. I can't remember the old tune, you know. So I started just playing my tune to it. And then I liked the words, so I just kept that, you know, and then it fitted with another bit of song I had, which is the verse in between it, so I just made that into a song. It just happened because I was reading her book.
Carry That Weight is as if it's part of Golden Slumbers. In fact, Carry That Weight keeps coming in and out of it different times. And the end is just the end. It's just a little sort of sequence which ends it all. And you really have to hear all that.
And to finish it off, because everything has an end, or every album has an end, we did a track called The End, and it...
I saw your column in the daily newspaper. That was just, I don't know, you know, I was in Scotland and I was just writing this little tune. You know, I can never tell like how tunes come out. I just wrote it as a joke, you know. I wrote this tune and it happened to start off, Her Majesty's a pretty nice girl. She doesn't have a lot to say. So I just wrote those little, you know, I wrote a few more lines with it.
You're making an album, and towards the end of the album you start thinking, well, we need a title for this. So you're looking around, you're fishing around, and the engineer Jeff Emmerich, who is our Beatle engineer, did all the great sounds for us, was smoking cigarettes called Everest. They like a kind of menthol cigarette at the time, and we kind of looked at that and said, Everest, it's kind of, you know, it's big, it's heroic, that could be good for the album. And just one day we were in Abbey Road working, and I just sort of said, well, look, you know, why not Abbey Road? Because if we did that, we could just run outside. Right. There's a level crossing, as we call it out there, zebra crossing. And we could just stand there, we could get photographed, come back to work. It'd take 2 seconds. Right. I said, and it's not a bad title, you know, Abbey Road. To us, it was kind of just the name of a studio. But I thought if you take it out of context, it kind of sounds like Monastery Lane, Abbey Road.
You know, this was incredible, the cover, because we would sit round, not only for the Abbey Road cover, but for many covers, we'd sit round, we got to go up Everest and, you know, dive off and they can shoot us. Or we got to go to a volcano in Hawaii. Or we've got to go to the pyramids. Oh, let's walk across the road. And that's what we did. Yeah, we just got up in the morning, got dressed and went. And that's how we were dressed.
Abbey Road is the name of a recording studio in St John's Wood, London. And Abbey Road was the place where I grew up. And in choosing the cover, again, the Beatles took the easy way out. They thought, well, we just have a simple shot of us doing either walking in and out of Abbey Road studios or whatever. And someone had the bright idea, rather than actually walking into the studio, walking across the pedestrian crossing just outside the studio. And they did it one day while we were recording there.
2, 3, 4.
It was great making Abbey Road. I mean, there was, you know, we cannot get away. There was some friction, but not when we played. When we made the music, we supported each other, and that's how we worked. You know, people think, oh, we just went in and did it. We worked hard.
It was a competent album, like Rubber Soul in a way, you know. It was together in that way, but it had no life really. That album, which everybody praises so much, it was just a montage of bits and pieces, because we didn't have any pieces, any finished songs, and we hadn't worked together, and all we had was that. That's the way things work out, you know. I mean, it doesn't make any less of the tracks because they were never completed songs. They became something else.
It was magical. I mean, there were some really loving, caring moments between four people.
I personally like it better than the last one that we did, the double album, yeah. So I like the songs a bit better. I think it's more of an LP.
You know, I don't think at that moment when we were doing Abbey Road, we thought, oh, that's it. We were doing Abbey Road. You change. People, you know, allow everybody to change by the Beatles. You know, I had 2 kids and married, and I wanted time for that. And, you know, John had found Yoko, and that changed things, you know. A natural thing. I believe because of that every band should end at 8 years.